All righty. Welcome, everyone. So nice to see you all here. So we have the chat function here on the right. Let me know if you guys can hear me properly. Is my audio all right? Please, in the chat, let me know whether my audio is okay and whether you can hear me enough, so to say. That would be very helpful if you could just quickly type in the chat on the right and let me know if the audio is okay. And of course, the chat also serves for you guys to ask your questions. Marty says, sound is good. Thank you, Marty. Really appreciate that. Good to see you. Welcome to the channel. Everyone else who is watching live as well, welcome to this live stream. I haven't been doing that many live streams recently, and that has a few different reasons. Yeah, all right. you say the hoping to stay, but have to drop off for an appointment. Yeah, all good. Are there any questions that we could answer for you already? Then please let them know. Please put them in the chat, and then we'll be answering them. Well, I'll be answering them. And also, of course, the recording afterwards is available for you guys to check out here on the channel. Yeah, let's get this party started, I would say. What I wanted to do is, so I'm going to take your questions all the time. Like when you have questions, just drop them into the chat and we'll be talking about them as we go. But what I wanted to do and what was my idea for this live stream was to quickly and briefly tell you my story again. I think maybe some of you guys have listened to my podcast, and but this is one of the most frequent questions that I get from also my coaching clients, like, what is your tinnitus story, and how severe is your tinnitus, and how difficult is life with tinnitus for you? And I very much get that, and I know that that's sort of like a way for people to figure out where they stand. But I also tell them, like, look, it's super individual. People's suffering in regards to tinnitus is individual. Some people with very mild tinnitus have very intense reactions to tinnitus, so suffer very severely. And people with very severe tinnitus, I have seen them, and I'm one of them, can have very severe tinnitus, but have very little reactions to their tinnitus and can be habituated. So I always want to say, like, I get that there's like this kind of negotiation around, like, okay, how bad is my tinnitus in comparison to other people, and will I be able to habituate, or am I like a lost case and nothing's going to work and it's going to be impossible for me? I totally get and understand that. And it's like a normal thing that we all do in different, like we compare ourselves, right, to establish, like, okay, where am I? Where do I want to go? And what's missing in between? And yes, certainly sometimes that's helpful, but we tend to forget that we're like super individual beings. And especially with tinnitus as well, it's very, very important to remember that the way you struggle, or the reasons why you struggle, or what your personal emotional connection to tinnitus is, can be incredibly individual. So I want to start with my story a little bit to set a little bit the scene, and then tell you guys about what you can expect from habituation. I think that's important. But also, I wanted to tell you that it's absolutely okay that you are on your own journey with your tinnitus, and it is totally normal that things, they are not always the same for every person with tinnitus. So that's why I always say, yes, of course, it's good to get your hearing tested and to maybe get hearing aids if you really need them. But apart from that, it's really super individual. And, just to get handed a pair of sound maskers and say, like, that's it, and you're good with your tinnitus, that's not the right thing to do, because it is so individual why and how people struggle with this condition, that it's like absolutely the wrong approach to just basically fit people with super expensive hearing aids and say, here you go, come back in 6 months, and that's all we can do for you, basically, right? So I do believe that we have to dig a little bit deeper, and that people have to look a little bit more into how and why they deal and suffer from their tinnitus in the way they do. And I think really looking at this from a more individual and holistic perspective, not comparing yourself to other people, knowing that you are on your own personal trajectory towards habituation, can take a lot of pressure. and also knowing that you're allowed to have a good life and be happy, even though you're going through a difficult time with your tinnitus. I've repeated this on my last few videos a few times, but I think it's really important. And before I get into my story now, let me just quickly read two of these comments. Marty says, yeah, my tinnitus is not that loud, but it causes for me pain sensations in the head and tension headaches. And always when I swallow, my ear makes a clicking sound. Yeah, that sounds a lot like a combination of maybe reactive tinnitus and somatic tinnitus. So like neck and back issues and, maybe grinding your teeth, etc. That sounds a little bit like somatic tinnitus. But often, unfortunately, tinnitus conditions come together, right? So we have various forms. I also grind my teeth and I have a hearing loss. So like often these things come together and they trigger tinnitus. And then also, of course, with our emotional system, etc., exacerbating tinnitus, then that always turns it even up and turns the volume up, etc. So yeah, very, very normal. So Marty, of course, like getting the grip on your somatic tinnitus, always a good thing to do the exercises that you can do for CMD or TMJ. Go to a physiotherapist and check that out. But to have then the expectancy that will that will then in the end completely get you rid of your tinnitus is not the right strategy, because then you'll be disappointed and then your reactivity will even be worse, right? So when we expect, okay, I have somatic tinnitus, so let me just solve these problems and then my tinnitus will be gone. Unlikely still, because often many things combined lead to our tinnitus, and not only the somatic parts are not the only relevant ones, but they might exacerbate it. So my tinnitus spikes and gets louder if I slouch and I sit in a bad position here on my desk, and that can happen, So that's something that often makes my tinnitus worse. But it's not as soon as I relieve and get a little bit more stretching or maybe go to the physiotherapist, it's not gone then. So seeing that there are holistic things and reasons for why we do deal with tinnitus in that way. And then my tinnitus is almost exclusively driven by food. If I didn't eat, it would be gone or very low volume, if that's something you've heard before. So, yeah, by food. So is it like like the fact of chewing? So when you chew something, that sets off your tinnitus? Or is it like after you've ingested the food after a while and then the tinnitus ramps up? Because then it might be more, linked to the food that you're actually eating. But if it's while eating, then it's probably linked to, also the jaw and neck muscles causing your tinnitus or increasing your tinnitus. Also a form of somatic tinnitus. Might be the same as what Marty commented. That might be important or relevant for you to check out what somatic factors you can influence, and then how that plays out. So there's so many things in there, so it would be difficult for me to judge one particular thing there. And John, I'm getting into your question right now as well. Please comment on the latest treatment for tinnitus, if any. I will. But I just want to quickly continue with this question. Eating and the tinnitus. I mean, right, when you already ingested the food, you always need to take things out. So what is the potential? You ingest food, you digest it, and stuff is released in your body to which you could have an allergic reaction that could set off your tinnitus. And if it's immediately when you chew, then it's much more likely it could also happen when you chew a chewing gum. And if you also chew a chewing gum, but you don't ingest any food, then it's more likely it's a neck and back and jaw problem as well. And therefore you have there's so many things of why your tinnitus could be flaring up or even be there. But we can explore this in later seconds. I want to get into John's question. John's question was, please comment on the latest treatment for tinnitus, and I will do so. And you guys know probably here from my channel that I have a very individualistic and holistic approach to tinnitus, and I don't believe so much in the one pill approach in the same way where we do know, for example, like 20 years ago for depression, they would say, okay, take pills and then everything is gone. Now they don't say that anymore. Of course, yeah, when you are depressed, you can take some pills in order to get, the baseline higher again and to, maybe have a little bit more drive and motivation, but that doesn't resolve the problem, the underlying issue. And you should still be going to the therapist and have different things that you talk about. And with tinnitus, I think it's exactly the same, because tinnitus is a multifaceted condition, like we already talked about. So, John, for any kind of approach, really, even if it would be getting rid of the tinnitus, I've said this before, if these studies come out and say that, hearing loss is almost exclusively reversible with these stem cell therapies, which I will do if there's no big disadvantages or no very dangerous potential side effects like carcinogenous effects or something, then I wouldn't do it. But if there wasn't, and they could reverse 80% of your hearing loss, then it is likely that that has a beneficial effect on your tinnitus. But unfortunately, it is shown that it might not completely eradicate your tinnitus either. So we have seen, and there's certain preliminary studies, I think this Austrian doctor who works in the US, also with this frequency therapeutics, I think they've done studies in I think chimpanzees, or I'm not sure, rhesus apes or something like that. And the studies have shown that although with the stem cell therapy you could reverse a high degree of hearing loss, that doesn't completely eliminate your tinnitus. And that shows you why tinnitus is such a multifaceted condition. And that goes back to what I said at the start. Even if you have very low tinnitus, you can very severely react to it if your brain and your amygdala, so your fear and panic-based center, is conditioned that this thing is a threatening thing that keeps you awake at night, that keeps you not being able to focus at work, and that keeps you stuck in always this mode where your body is anxious. And, so what I'm saying is, even if you could completely reverse hearing loss, which would have a very potential beneficial effect on your tinnitus, close to eradication of your tinnitus, it is not completely guaranteed that the tinnitus is completely gone. And then you would still have to work with behavioral techniques, for example. I love acceptance and commitment therapy, and acceptance and commitment therapy has been so successful for me in helping so many people to habituate to tinnitus. And it's also the core of our online program to completely change the way our brain responds to tinnitus. Right? Even if we eradicate tinnitus to 80% maybe, and you still have a slight tinnitus, if you have started to become conditioned to respond to tinnitus with anxiety, it's the same with chronic pain. As soon as your body sees chronic pain in your body, like neck or back tension, what do? You don't relax. You tense up further because you know this. You know that this hurts you. You know that this is difficult, and therefore your body goes into more tension mode. It's the same thing with tinnitus. When your brain perceives tinnitus and it knows what a threat it is, and it knows your sleeping issues, it knows your concentration, it knows the toll that tinnitus has taken on your life already, then absolutely the tinnitus is going to keep you in this stuck loop, right? And this is Pavlov's conditioning, basically, where you ring a bell every time you feed a dog, and eventually you can ring the bell and the dog starts to salivate, and your brain does the same in response to tinnitus. So when your brain perceives tinnitus as a threat, your brain wraps up all the potential things that it can do: anxiety, anger, sadness, all of the emotional possibilities for you to be able to find a way to do something about this tinnitus, right? And that's, of course, the most effective way when we have learned how to deal with difficult things. But what we need to approach it from a different kind of angle. So if John asked, like, what are the latest treatment methodologies? And most of these treatment methodologies, they don't work in completely reversing hearing loss, which is, by the way, the number one contributing factor to tinnitus. Most people with tinnitus have a hearing loss. And even if you don't have a hearing loss in an audiogram until 8 kilohertz, then that doesn't mean you don't have no hearing loss in an audiogram until 12 or 13 or 14 kilohertz, which can be also leading to a tinnitus. But it's mostly not tested because it's absolutely not everyday speech relevant, and also not relevant for you getting a hearing aid or something like that. That's why you can literally clinically have not any hearing loss, still have some hearing loss, because when we're born, we can hear up to 20 kilohertz. It's totally natural that declines over our age. And it's very normal that then that's sort of the contributing factor to tinnitus. Same way that as soon as we peak after 30, our ability to do strenuous exercise declines, and we have to work hard to keep it. And Emma and Sabine, I'm going to go into your questions in just a teeny tiny bit. I want to round off what John asked about the tinnitus treatment. What I wanted to say is that most treatments out there, it doesn't matter whether you talk about cognitive behavior therapy apps, whether you talk about neuromodulation, whether you talk about devices that recently have been released. All of these devices, or mindfulness-based stress release stuff, All of these work with the way your brain responds and perceives tinnitus as a threat to shift you from bothersome to non-bothersome tinnitus. And by the way, our group, so my coaching in our group does exactly the same, but not where you consume video courses yourself and you just do the video courses and sit at home alone. No, we have a different approach. Like you sit there in a group with people and who are, I'm the group leader basically, and we all get together once a week for a coaching session. That's usually Thursday at 7 p.m. And then everyone discusses their progress, what the difficulties are, what has been going well, and people love it. It's because you can connect with other people who have exactly the same program. Where can you do that in all these other apps? You can't, right? You just fed the CBT lessons and say, oh, the CBT and don't think like this, etc. No, but it's also important that you feel understood, that you feel validated, that you know why that happens to you, and to feel validated in that it happens to a lot of other people as well, right? So my opinion is very important that we have a very individual approach for tinnitus treatment. Of course, if someone needs a hearing aid, then a hearing aid is very important because that allows you to hear more, not because of sound therapy. In my opinion, a hearing aid is only necessary for tinnitus if there's a warrant for really a hearing loss, right? Because your brain needs to have all the input it can get in order to have more input from the outside, and then it modulates tinnitus a little bit as well. You hear more from the outside, you hear less tinnitus. Yeah, that's basically how it works. Also for me, I take my hearing aid out, quite a lot louder, right? And this one's deaf, and this one quite a lot louder when I take the hearing aid out. Fully normal. So I take the hearing aid in. It also takes a little bit of my own speech. When I talk loud, then it feeds back into the hearing aid, a little microphone, little speaker inside the ear, and that basically allows me to hear the tinnitus a little bit less. So, John, I hope I answered your question. I know it's not probably not what you were looking for, because I know people often look for, okay, what is the quickest way to get rid of this if there is a treatment? But I can say that my idea on these treatments is a two-faceted approach. It's very important that we deal with the underlying fear and anxiety response of tinnitus inside our fear and panic-based center and the conditioning of how we respond to tinnitus. And on the other side, hopefully in a few years, we'll be able to reverse hearing loss. That will, of course, be also very, very important and interesting for me, because my hearing loss is, of course, severely impacting me. I can get quite tired throughout the day because, my just having one deaf ear and only one ear with a pretty bad hearing loss already, and tinnitus is like quite draining. So I have to look out for myself. Probably one of the reasons why I've been dealing with burnout this year. But it is a multifaceted approach, and it's very individual of what people will respond to. But I do believe that, you guys don't have to join the community. You guys don't have to go for one-on-one coaching with me. Absolutely not. I just want to tell you that I believe that there's a path to habituation for every single one of you out there, and to not live in distress by tinnitus anymore. Yeah, Marty, it's so hard to find the cause because there's so much causes. It's insane. Yeah, it's absolutely. It's about finding out what works for you, I think. Emma asked me whether I suffer from hyperacusis. And Sabina asked whether I have spike that only lasts a few seconds. Sometimes I have this several times a week. First of all, Sabine's, because that's the easiest. Sabine, yes, and those are absolutely normal. Even people without tinnitus get these high few second spikes. Even people that have no tinnitus at all get those. You can even Google it. It's not even considered tinnitus. It's not even considered intermittent tinnitus, something that everyone has. And there's also a theory out there that actually, in fact, we all have tinnitus, but in people who do never develop tinnitus over their life, there's a genetic predisposition that suppresses the output of the auditory cortex in the brain to tell the brain, okay, this sound is not needed. So it technically is in every single auditory cortex, but the people, the 70% of the population, or the people, not 70%, because at some point many people get tinnitus. So we always say it's 25 to 30%, but it could be much higher. So it could be that maybe everyone has tinnitus, but there is a group with genetic predisposition where tinnitus is basically suppressed in the brain because the brain knows we don't need to hear this stimuli. So Sabine, this is absolutely normal. These spikes who last a few seconds can be an indicator, maybe a good remembering possibility for you. Like, am I stressed? Is my back tense right now? What can I do for myself to take care of myself in this moment? And then Emma, I hope that answered your question. Emma whether as from hyperacusis. Emma, it's a pleasure to see you here in the live stream or to read from you. I really enjoyed your comments over the last few weeks on the channel, and I'm glad that the videos have been helpful for you over the past couple of weeks. And my new goal after dealing with burnout this year is not to have a super successful tinnitus business. It's about helping one person at a time. And my heart warms up if when I read all those comments from you guys that you have enjoyed the content that I do, because as you can imagine, even though these videos are only 8 to 10 minutes long, I am alone. So I work in the coachings, I work on my community, and I do YouTube videos and a podcast once a week. So it's even a 10, 12-minute video is not a quick thing to do. So it does take a while. And I think that maybe live streaming more often is a little bit easier because I just go live and I don't edit anything afterwards. And that maybe is a way to, show people a lot more of what we have in store to really get you from bothersome to non-bothersome tinnitus. But thank you, Sabine. No, thank you, Emma. That was really nice to read all these comments. They keep me going. And it's my passion and profession to go one person at a time, to help you one person at a time. And I'm here for you guys, and you guys know that. So you can always drop me a comment on my videos, and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible. And also in the community tab, I will do like some questions and stuff where you can submit your questions and comments and concerns, and then I will get into those as well. So it's really important, I think, for me that I found my community, not only in my Tinnitus Club, but also for people who are maybe, somewhere else. And I see this a little bit like open doctor's visit, where everybody can come in and ask their questions. And that's cool that YouTube and these online platforms give us that opportunity. But I haven't answered your question yet. Right now, I don't suffer from hyperacusis. And why do I say right now? I believe hyperacusis is another story where it's psychological and physiological, meaning that on the one hand, your ears literally do hurt when you are more exposed to loud sounds. And that, of course, makes it more difficult to tolerate them. And then your fear of the tinnitus getting worse flares up as well. That in and of itself drives the constant repetitive looking for where is my tinnitus, how loud is it right now, and so on and so forth. So there is a literal physiological feeling of pain in the ears and a psychological contributor that you wish to protect yourself from more pain. And I'm saying right now I don't have hyperacusis, but whenever I had a loud noise event and I fear that my tinnitus is getting worse, then I tend to have periods where my ears feel full and where it's difficult for me to tolerate loud sounds. And that's what I would determine as hyperacusis as well. But I can relatively well recover from that because I know it already. It's a little bit like with the spikes. When my spikes get so loud that I can't do anything else, then I cancel my meetings and I sit down and play PlayStation. I've told you guys this. And it's just because, there's not much to do if I don't hear properly. And it's really like how I deal with it. And sometimes after playing PlayStation, the spike is gone and I'm okay and I'm fine, right? And it's all in how I approach it. If I run around the house and get upset and smash stuff or break down crying, then yeah, of course, I'm going to be more and more upset, and I'm going to be tuning even more into my tinnitus and saying, oh, this is destroying my life. And yeah, it's absolutely not destroying my life. I live my life, and sometimes I let the tinnitus spike allow me to just have a nice session on my PlayStation. I have a little racing seat down there, and that I can take out and play PlayStation with it. And that, by the way, that's Stefania, my wife, and that over there is Danny, my best friend from South Africa. We studied together in Cape Town at UCT, University of Cape Town. Yeah, so now you've gotten to know my most important people as well. Yeah, so I would say I do suffer from hyperacusis when I had these loud noise events, so I can relate to hyperacusis as well. And I did deal with hyperacusis for a pretty long period of time before, especially also in 2014 when my tinnitus got so loud after this King's Night event. But I have a little picture here since I was born deaf on my left ear anyways, and my parents hadn't even found out that I was deaf at that time. So I was 3 years old, and my parents didn't even know that I was deaf in one ear. And they found out like whenever we would telephone my grandma, my mom would put the telephone on my left side, and I would say like, but mom, I don't hear anything there. And then she's like, what do you mean you don't hear anything there? So for me as a little child, it was it was like normal that you can't hear on your left ear. Like, it's just normal, you can't hear out of your left ear. It can just happen, right? So yeah, that was a thing where like eventually they're like, okay, maybe we should go and check this out. So they took me to the hospital eventually, and they in the hospital they did these checks that they do, especially for little children. The procedure is a little bit different in audiology. But then they found out, and they're like, yeah, he's deaf in one ear, but the right ear is all good. And then it was basically my responsibility to screw up my right ear over 15, 16, 17 years ago. No one would wear earplugs in all of these clubs, right? So that's really, that was shady. Unfortunately, there was not really anyone who would give out earplugs when you go to the club or something like that. So that's when I damaged this before functioning right ear. And yeah, that I regret, of course, but I know that regretting doesn't change anything. And if at all, the shame and guilt that goes with it, and I see it in a lot of my clients and a lot of the people I work with, is something that will not help you in your habituation journey, because it will drive you to be even more reactive to your tinnitus. Because you're like, how could I just do this? Why was I so stupid? I mean, it is what it is, right? It's life. Life gives you scars. Life's never easy. And tinnitus is one of the many things, and hearing loss, age-related, is one of the many things that we're all going to be dealing with. Really. And what's the alternative? Like, never going out the house and always protecting your ears? Look, like I always tell my clients as well, if you always protect your ears, and then one day you go outside and there's an ambulance passing by, and unlucky you, the ambulance passes next to you and just puts on their horn, or whatever you call it. And that blast is so strong, and it sets your tinnitus off even worse, or makes everything worse. It's like there's so many things beyond our control. We unfortunately cannot control everything. And for me, well, I could have controlled how I got my hearing loss and how I made my hearing a lot worse back then. And I probably also should have, but I didn't. And that's okay, because I've learned to deal and manage it. But it was a rocky road, and it was a very rocky start, because I had the same experience that many of you guys have, when you go to the ENT, and the ENT says, well, there's not really much we can do. It's just like protect your ears better, and eventually maybe you want to be careful. And I have to say, like, on the one hand, I'm bummed out by, not having taken better care of my hearing, but on the other hand, it brought me the path that I'm on now. It made me connect with my potential of working with people from all over the world, connecting with all of you guys, building up this YouTube channel, doing honest to God's work with people with tinnitus, and really caring of these people. And like, it's like yin and yang. Everything has two sides. Like, there's a sad story to my tinnitus story and to my deafness, but there's also, I believe, a huge beneficial story where I found my purpose in life, and where I really enjoy what I do. And so I believe there's always two sides to the coin. And my personal story is, of course, one where I have been able to turn this around and help other people to also turn it around. There's two more questions. Marty said, can I use the valve manera with tinnitus, because I'm dealing sometimes with a lot of pressure in my ear? Wow, that's a very medical question. I saw your comment earlier on, and supraventricular tachycardia is not something I can give a comment on. I would not feel comfortable with that. I would say, from a pressure perspective, I don't know how much the pressure will be on your ears, but I will not tell you not to do that maneuver if you have supraventricular tachycardia, because I will not be responsible for that, Marty. I'm really sorry. I can't make a comment on that. I don't actually know any of it. So you should probably ask your GP or your ENT. I'm sorry for that. I can't really make a comment on it, and it's probably more important that your heart's running than that your tinnitus gets worse. That's my personal opinion. But it might also rid you of your tinnitus completely if it goes wrong, so to say. So yeah, no, sorry. Can't really answer that question. I'm having success with neurofeedback. It definitely settles my central nervous system, allows me to sleep now and decrease my anxiety. Yeah, very good. There you go. Neurofeedback is something very, very, very cool. And these are all different kinds of possibilities, right? What our body needs in our brain in response to tinnitus also is it wants to feel safe, right? And when we feel safe, so like if you guys sit in front of the screen now, just put your hands on your shoulder, yeah? And while you experience your tinnitus, just have your hands on your shoulder. Like give yourself a little hug or, just tread this a little bit. And you will see like that is one cue for your brain. It's like safety is here. So what your brain wants is to be safe. And neurofeedback, for example, are techniques and potential for you. The same with acceptance and commitment therapy and going and working with a group. It makes you feel safe. It makes it feel okay that you're going through what you're going through, right? And that's a very positive thing. So, it's your brain always wants the cue that it's safe. And when you give your brain the cue that it is safe, despite experiencing tinnitus, your brain can slowly but naturally say, okay, well, then why am I reacting to this the whole time? So what I do in my coaching and what we do in the community through acceptance and commitment therapy is not that we say, oh yeah, accept your tinnitus and be done with it. Absolutely not. Acceptance is a hugely, incredibly active process. It requires a lot of courage, but it can be incredibly effective when done in the right way and when done in the right guidance and context. However, and this is the deal, Leo, your brain wants to learn that it is safe despite tinnitus, so it needs these data points. So you need to have bad times with your tinnitus, and you need to confront yourself with your negative thoughts and feelings towards your tinnitus in order to teach your brain that it is not as bad as it had started to be conditioned to make it out to be. Maybe a little bit difficult, but that makes a lot of sense, and you will see why. Because you have to break the negative, vicious, repetitive cycle of your brain tuning into tinnitus and then responding in that way. And you have to convince your brain that you're safe while experiencing tinnitus. And then your brain can learn that tinnitus is safe. And habituation is none of the same as when you move to a new place and there's a road, and for the first few nights you don't sleep because it's too loud, because your brain thinks it's still dangerous here, or I don't know this place yet, I can't really let go of control. And then eventually you can. So that's also habituating, right? So habituating to tinnitus simply means getting used to the sound that your brain learns you have nothing to fear from it. And that means not getting rid of the tinnitus. It means not having this physiological fight or flight reaction anymore. And I always say to the people, like, if you could have tinnitus, but absolutely couldn't care less about it. So it would be there, but you couldn't give a damn about it. How would that be? And that's what we can give you. And I want to take 1 or 2 more minutes because honestly, my mouth is getting really, my mouth is getting really dry right now. Let me see quickly whether I can. What I would like to do is want to share my screen with you guys. Oh, how do I do this? Google Chrome. Okay, password. Okay, give my password. Später. Okay, Chrome tab. No, doesn't work. Next time though. Well, we'll have to leave it for next week. We'll leave it for next week. I wanted to get into the community a little bit and show you around right in there, but we'll have to leave it for next week. But there's a lot of videos on the YouTube channel as well where I show you guys around into the community. And if you go all the way up to the link as well, then there is, first of all, what I want to mention before my voice goes, and my personal story this year tells me to go and read a book or something, which, by the way, I'm reading such cool books at the moment. Anyways, I'll leave that for next for the next live stream next Wednesday. To which, when you click the link all the way up there, there is a link to my free 4-day email course. So you get 4 emails over 4 days with 4 different exclusive videos where I help you to, understand this path a little bit better. And when you sign up to that, you will also have the option to be notified with an email every Wednesday before I go live. So you can come in here and join with your questions and ask your questions and just get a little bit of support in your habituation journey, discuss your obstacles, tell me what's wrong. Tell me, hey, but Frida, that's bullshit what you're saying there. And I'm like, yes, please tell me it's bullshit so I can try and rebut it. Or we can come to a different conclusion, the two of us, right? Because we're adults, we're all adults here, and we can have a discussion about things. There's probably never only one truth, and I'm not here to share one truth. And one thing a community client or a client told me recently, she said, there's this nice wisdom thingy that says, like, don't trust the people who claim they know the truth. Trust the people who keep looking for it. And I think I'm one of the people who want to keep looking for it. And I don't claim to have it for myself. So I don't claim to have the truth for tinnitus, but I have a way to figure out for a lot of people what could be helpful. And yeah, well, it remains to say, yeah, I see people dropping off because they say, whoa, he's done. He has shared everything he could. He hasn't gotten rid of my tinnitus, but he has tried his best. And I did. But yeah, you guys see the link up there in the chat, but also here on all my videos. You can go for the 4-day course. There is also a second link. I have emergency consultation. So if you're really struggling, if something is really bugging you and you really want to talk to me to help you, then you can click on that emergency coaching session and get that one there. I have a relatively frequent events, just a couple of weeks left before Christmas, before I sign off for a couple of weeks. And then also the last one that is in there, apart from all the free resources that I have, is also the link to our program. There you have a landing page where you can, I'm just looking at it right now, read a little bit more about the program, what it's about, what's in store for you, why it could be working for you, why we have a free trial, why we have a money back guarantee, and all the salesy stuff that I'm really bad with. But yeah, you guys are, of course, at full liberty to or discretion to check it out. If you want it, you absolutely don't have to. And that's it. Any more questions? Actually, yeah, I mean, if we have a question, one or two more, then I could answer it. But apart from that, I think if we don't have any more questions, then I might just go take out my play seat. By the way, that's also what you see next to the play seat is a ping pong table. So I bought a mid-sized ping pong table indoors, and Steffi and me and all the people who come to visit me, they frequently have to play ping pong with me. Something that I played a lot I was in a psychosomatic clinic for my burnout this year. So we played a lot of ping pong in there. And I got very, very addicted to playing ping pong. Alrighty. Anyways, that was fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it was good. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. I'll see you all latest in the stream next week. On Friday, I have a new video. And the video is from my walk around the lake here on Sunday. So it's really nice, also together with a new little sound therapy video, although I don't trust so much in sound therapy. I know that YouTube likes those for the algorithm stuff. So I get them to try to get people to watch more of my videos to understand more about their tinnitus and their habituation journey. So that's why I have one of those. And I have a full video where I talk why even with tinnitus, you can experience silence and how you can start doing that. But yeah, I hope it was useful for you guys. I hope that I was able to answer your questions. And I'll see you either on Friday in the next YouTube video or next week on Wednesday at the same time for the live again. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. Goodbye, guys.